So I want to link this to some scientific facts. Because when it comes to mind, we think a lot of times that it's all mumbo jumbo, spirituality is all mumbo jumbo, and it's not linked to science. But a leading psychologist from Oxford University, Ian McGilchrist, his recent work on divided brain found out that majority of the world's population is just working from their left brain capacity, which is logical and analytical thinking, but not tapping into the right brain capacity, which is more intuitive and thinking in the whole, which is illogical, which is irrational. And many of the crises that we are facing today is actually a manifestation of that, of a divided brain. And even the rising cases of anxiety and depression and loneliness around the world, especially amongst the youth. In UK, I remember just last year read an article, Lost Generation. The youth in 20s, they are not showing up for work because they're not mentally well. So I'd like to open the floor from that context, and Manoj, you have already spoken, so I'd like to maybe Lam Nima Tshering, if you can share your perspective a bit, that how in Eastern culture before, the focus was so much on cultivation of mind, but today our education system is focused so much on just application of mind, neglecting the cultivation of mind aspect totally. And again, citing Ian's work here from Oxford, that meditation alone cannot cultivate a mind. It needs ecology of practices. So if you'd like, I'd like the esteemed panelists here to share their thoughts on this. Maybe 2 minutes each. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So I'm very honored to be here and share my feelings with you all. Actually, my English is not that much good, and I want to apologize first of all. And so we are talking about mind. So mind is, sometimes you can't imagine about mind. Sometimes it is something that we can touchable or something like that. It's very difficult. So our nature of mind, actually Buddha also told that the nature of mind is very pure, but some obstacles, they made us like suffering, happiness, everything created from the mind. So on that, what you have to do is, we need realization. We need to understand the nature of mind. So on that, what you have to do is, we have to meditate. Actually, all the creatures have Buddhahood, but due to obstacles, it was covered and we can't see the nature of mind. And we are suffering and surrounding in this samsara. And we are suffering everything. And to free from that suffering or to free from that samsara, what we have to do is, we have to find a way, and the way is to realize our mind. How we can realize our mind is, we have to meditate on that, and we have to look back to our own mind, and we can realize then. So when we realize our nature mind, that is the stage of the Buddhahood or the Nirvana. So we can say enlightened also. So to get that, we have to be practice more. We have to, first, what we have to do is, we have to do meditations, then we have to find some solutions like methods, doing generosity or doing post-stations, every thing which we are done by our like body, mind, and speech. So sometimes we accumulate negative things by all these 3 points. So first we have to accumulate good, what can say, the virtues to clear all these negative things. And after that, if we meditate, sometimes we say, oh, I'm meditating, and we are living in a meditation pose, and we are thinking tomorrow I will go to town and I will buy this and that and so on. Then they will live like 2-3 hours. Then after that they say, oh, now I finished my meditation. That's the not way of meditation. Meditation is like not thinking past, not thinking future. You keep your mind on present, and you do live on that. Then you will gain something like a peaceful thing. But it is like a what you can say, we can't express it. It is like a, what you can say, the taste of sweet. If I eat a sweet, and if somebody asks me, how is it? I always say, sweet, sweet, but can't express. But I have some feelings on that sweet. Same like that, meditation also we have that experience. So when we do that meditations, and gradually what we have to reduce is, so actually our human natures had like 5, sometimes we say 3, sometimes we say 5 poisons with us, like desire or the attachment, then anger and ignorance or the illusion. And so when we say 3, these 3 points. And when we say 5, on that pride or the ego and the jealousy. So unless these 5 poisons make us suffering, so we have to reduce that poisons, even in this generation. Like you say that in this generation, most of the people, youths, they are getting depression. Why? Because due to our, what you can say, desire, we can't achieve what we like. That's why we are getting. Then our anger, so we want to fight with others. If we can't revenge with that people, then we are getting depression. Then our illusion, we don't know what we are doing, and we are getting depression. Then our pride, our ego makes us depression. If I can't compare with others, I am getting depression. Then our jealousy makes us depression. So first we recognize that 5 poisons, and gradually if we can reduce that 5 poisons, we will be more better. We can control our emotions. We can control our depressions. So then why we have to meditate is, meditation is to reduce that. We can realize that, we can recognize and realize that poisons, and we can reduce day by day. But we can't take out it from the root. If we can, that is enlightened. So, but we can reduce day by day for our anger. If I angry like 100 times today, tomorrow 99, then maybe after 1 week 98, then day by day we can reduce. So then our suffering will also reduce day by day. I think I will keep on that now. So if I talk more, then there is no time. So thank you.
Okay, so I want to just link some contexts here. So what I understand from Lam Tshering is that all the man-made crises, the root of it is in human mind, right? If we can purify our mind, then we can purify the environment and the society around us. There would be no wars, we won't damage the environment. And what I understand from Manoj's presentation is that to be able to purify the mind, we have to work on what we eat, on our schedule, how we sleep, manage our emotions, manage our desires. So it's not only just about meditation, but it's about ecology of practices, a way of living that can help us purify our mind. And from that context, for Dasho Tshewang Tandin, you had Royal Thimphu College, and I think you have been closely very involved with the local youth here. I would like to know from your perspective that what is the impact of social media on the youth today? Because before the advent of internet, the impressions that our mind would receive were very limited. We would have access to only few books or magazines, right? But today, from the internet, the youth are getting impressions, maybe 1,000 or 50,000 impressions also sometimes a day. And all that clutters up if we don't meditate. So the rising rates of anxiety, even the suicide cases and depression and loneliness, from the educator's perspective, what do you think could be the right way to go? Because meditation is talked about so much, but the deeper aspects of cultivation of mind, which is food, sleep, managing desires, emotions, how do we tackle that?
Okay, thank you. And also linking to the presentation that was made and also taking off from Lam and also responding to these questions. I think I spent all my working life trying to impact youth in some way, but it's been a long journey and I still have a lot of, a long way ahead because it's all about learning, committing, and doing something with it, and in the process, learning more. So it's what happens in the society, what happens elsewhere is oftentimes not in our hand. But what is in our hand is how do we cope? The situation is like that, sometimes bad situation, but it's learning to cope with the situation. So that is exactly in our hand. So now the good news is that there are a lot of things happening in neuroscience findings. In the last 20 years or so, there has been proliferation of journals in mindfulness. Never before. Our understanding based on now, backed up by science about mind, training of the mind is very good today than it was some 20 years ago. So we have to capitalize on that, on learning. There was a question in the morning about what do we do with the schools where we focus so much on the exams and results and so on, and should we not change? Definitely, we can. The good news is that the current neuroscience finding says that well-being, happiness is a skill. I think it's a soft skill. So like any other skill, the more you practice, the more you train, the better you can get. In fact, you can practice yourself to be happier. So how the situations that are not in your hand, but what is in your hand, you can do many things there. And the starting point is, in learning today, there are two methods. One, declarative, where you're given concepts, knowledge, information, and that is dominating our education system from the primary schools. And the other thing is procedural, which is experiential, where you engage learners, where they experience things, where you get them to practice. I always tell my young students, this practice, you can't say, I'm busy. You can't let your best friend do it. You have to do it yourself. In order to have the transformation, you have to do it. You have to practice. The concept is very, very basic. Mindfulness, I think all of us, we know about that. Meditation, and the basic definition of that is very, very simple. Being aware of what is happening in the present moment in your mind, body, and the external environment. Oftentimes, we are good at observing other people, but that is a part of the external environment. Nature, what's around you, including other people. But we don't take time to look inside, observe ourselves. And the competition now is the people who are trying to distract you are also using findings from neuroscience to distract you and keep you long hours there on distraction. And the finding, one of the things that neuroscience, their finding says is that a distracted mind is an unhappy mind. Now, how do we stop that? And the answer is meditation. So meditation is nothing but just looking into yourself, observing yourself, starting from your breath, and then watching your emotions. Emotions are not you. Emotions are just physiological changes. If you observe, if you learn and train yourself to observe yourselves, the sensitivities, the changes in your physiology, you will well be aware, I'm beginning to become sad. or I'm beginning to get angry. And when you are aware, you can manage emotions, because when you don't, we knee-jerk reactions, and that gives us a lot of unhappiness. So the answer here is this. And I say again, having said that we have to have this procedural method of learning to counter a lot of declarative, I think I have to walk that talk. So I will put you through a short practice that you can carry home. So I will invite you, and I'll give you a short invitation based on neuroscience. How can we rewire our brain? How we can. S.N. Goenka, late great master in Vipassana, he says, he calls this the shackles and bondage of the habitual mind. Actually, these are things that we have got through evolution. When the situation was so different, you have to act fast, you have to react, otherwise you end up being eaten up by some saber-tooth tiger or something. And the resources were so scarce that time. If somebody gets more, there's less for you. And you have to pay attention to negativity because it's about survival. But today, there's plenty out there. Situations have changed, but we still carry that DNA. So unless we rewire our brain, we live in this situation, but we are carrying that ancient habitual practices. So how we can do that? And again, training. We have to do it ourselves. We can't outsource to a high monk and ask this person to pray for you, because transformation cannot take place unless you engage and practice that yourself. So I want to invite you, 2 invitations I want to give, maybe one little later. One invitation is a short arrival practice, 1 minute. So I will invite you to lengthen your back, relax, soften your shoulders. You can either close your eyes or take a soft gaze in front of you. The key here is you have to feel comfortable and alert at the same time. And just watch, is observing ourselves. Watch your breath. Breath coming in, breath going out. And these are just instructions. I will ask you to begin. And in the process, your mind will go away. I'm sure it will go away. But doesn't matter. Get it back. Say, oh, it's gone out. Get it back. Be kind to yourself. So here we go. Take a deep breath and a long, slow exit. And then normal breathing. A minute of doing that. Okay, take a deep breath and long, slow release. Gently open your eyes. Come back to the room. Thank you. Some of you are experienced meditators already. I know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dasho, for that. And I would like to ask that how many of you could close your eyes without any thought in your mind? None, right? So I think that's what we are talking about here, that how can we reclaim the potential of our mind, that how can we become the masters of our mind rather than being the slaves of our mind when it's not in our control, thoughts coming in like that. Now, Tim, you have been a practitioner, so I would like to know from your experience if you can share there are different stages in the cultivation of mind, if I'm not wrong. It starts with first concentration. As we know, for the youth here, a majority of the youth now has an attention span of less than 20 seconds now, and the marketing, the marketing companies are now trying to, make their ads for less than 20 seconds. And that is not actually human development, right? Because if our concentration has gone down to 20 seconds, that is not something to be proud of, but rather something to be worried about. But it starts with concentration, and then there are deeper layers. In Eastern cultures, there is samadhi, and then there is also the ability of samyama, or unlocking the intuition, that is ability to access the universal or the wider consciousness, which is now proven by the quantum theory of unified conscious field also. So if you can share your experience as a practitioner, how you navigated through these stages and what changes you experienced in your own life, and the potential of your mind that you could realize.
Good evening, La. So thank you, and just really grateful for all the wisdom on this stage and for that question. So as an education practitioner, really I think the vision of gross national happiness is really that North Star. And earlier when Rapsel was talking about, the Gelifu Mindfulness City, I think at ELC at our school, we really believe that a mindfulness city must spring from mindful schools. And so, in this age of AI now, emotional intelligence is even more important than ever. And, education is a pathway not just for vocation, but also for flourishing. And so earlier I was talking with Andrew about, saying the heart of education is actually the education of the heart. And GNH, we have a poster at our school that says, GNH is actually learning with a capital G to nurture with a capital N our hearts with a capital H. And really, then GNH becomes a lived practice. And so to get kind of into these deeper states of transforming the mind, we must also transform the heart. And the mind, the word in Dzongkha, Sem, is both mind, is head, and it's also heart, right? And so, there's a lot of wisdom already that's been shared, but I'll share more from the perspective as a practitioner. So what does that look like when you look at it from a school and from all the schools that we have the privilege of partnering with? So one of the pathways that we have is called Design for Change. And this is a national design thinking program where we empower children to feel, imagine, do, and share. It's a simple 4-step process. And, as the country partner to that, we're really working with children, with young people to co-create wellness, well-being centered, grassroots, village-led solutions that are led by young people. So what does that actually look like in practice? So one of the ways that young people actually, when they actually feel bothered by a problem, when they address it, one of the ways that that's manifested is through anti-bullying campaigns to address bullying that affects their mental health, their well-being, their ability to have a stable mind in schools. Another way is, children in a rural school in Chuka, when they went through this process, they ended up designing a safer walking path to school. Some of these children in rural schools in Bhutan walk 2 hours to school each way. And so they harvested local bamboo with their parents, and they created a safer walking path using all sustainable local materials. In Hunsi, children were learning to weave their own school uniforms, And so this is really GNH and lived practice. And now we've partnered with over 400 schools over the last decade, and now partnering with the Ministry of Education to actually bring this to scale through the Scouts program to every school in the country. So that's one way. The other is, through the school's well-being program. And at our school, we have kind of 2 frameworks. One is these 4 pillars of well-being: mindfulness, community, self-curiosity, and contentment. And in Dzongkha, that word is chokshe, the knowledge of enough, contentment. And we really believe children must be treasured and not just measured. Treasured and not just measured. And when we actually put that into practice, it's about learning to care for the self, care for others, and care for the planet. And with mindfulness, Dasho, Lam have talked about this already, but it's all about bringing it into practice every day. And if children feel well, we know they'll do well. And so what we've done at our school is every hour we actually have a mindfulness gong that goes off across the entire school. And no matter what you're doing, if you're a student in the middle of class, if you're a teacher going to use the bathroom, once that mindfulness gong goes off, everyone just takes a minute just to pause and to breathe. Just like Dasho very beautifully led us through right now. And what that allows us to do is just to take that sacred pause, just to reset before you start a class or before you move on to the next thing, just to arrive, you know. We're always rushing from one thing to the next. And so you're talking about concentration and how now in the age of social media and AI, how short our attention spans are. And so we work with children at the level that they can handle, which is in these little minutes every hour. And that adds up to 20 minutes of mindfulness every day where they can just de-stress, calm down before an exam. Right now is exam season. All students, they take a mindful breath before they do that. And then the other part of this is actually the emotions. And so, you know, we actually have daily emotions check-ins. So, you know, we have a wheel of emotions, tanka, at our school, where children are actually learning to identify their emotions. And we have a couple of mantras. We say you have to name it to tame it. You have to feel it to heal it. You have to attend it to befriend it. To actually become friends with our emotions so we can learn to cope with them in healthier ways. And we say, no matter what children are feeling, sometimes I have students who say they're feeling angry. And we say you're allowed to feel angry, but you're not allowed to hit someone else, right? So all emotions are welcome, but all behaviors are not. And so we're teaching children skills to actually cope with emotions in healthier ways. And even teaching kind of the kind of roots of these emotions. So in Dzongkar, like words like gatsor is gratitude, ga is happiness, tsor is arising or awakening, right? Helping children actually understand even the roots of where these emotions come from. Tsipsa, like tip being like bricks, stones, za, to eat stones, that's when you're feeling angry, you know? And so the more we help our children really understand, be with their emotions, the more that they can find skillful ways to actually navigate the world in a healthier way and do well. And we have a lot of other ways we put this into practice. And maybe the last thing I'll share is just, you know, a little story and the last practice that we have, which is restorative justice, which is also known as Nangka Nandri in Bhutan. So traditionally in villages, you know, when two, let's say farmers have a dispute about land, you know, the gup or the mangmi, the village leader, will bring the two farmers together to actually address it through peaceful dialogue, through civil conversation. And you see on all the monastery walls here, the four friends, you know, the peace, the harmony, these are the values that really matter. And so we try to actually bring this into practice, these indigenous practices into our schools. And so what we found is just by whenever there's a conflict situation, you know, we really see that actually as an opportunity for learning for our children so that they can actually repair, harm, restore relationships. And it's through some simple questions. First, we practice some mindfulness. Then we ask them, Gachibei, what happened, you know? And then how did that make you feel? And then what can be done to make things right? And when they actually talk through this, you know, we find that at the end, there's real restoration. And their emotions are cared for, and they feel seen and heard. And so we had a boy, you know, I would love to share this story, who came to our school from another school, and he was getting into all sorts of different, you know, conflict situations. He was, you know, saying hurtful things to other kids. He would get into fights. And as he sat in these restorative justice circles, he was learning, practicing this mindfulness in the hourly, you know, fashion. He was actually learning skills to cope. And at the end of the year, you know, he came up to the principal, Ma'am Vicky, and me, and he said, "You're going to be really proud of me because yesterday I was about to get into a fight, but instead of punching this other kid or saying something hurtful, I remembered everything we've been practicing." And he said, "I took a deep breath, I said sorry to this other child, and I walked away." And so we were so amazed and in awe. And that's really the power of this practice, you know, just these little ways that we can bring this into schools. And really, you know, that's the gift that has come from the throne, gross national happiness, really as a lived practice to learn to nurture our hearts in community, but also in this practice, this mindful practice.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim, for that wonderful explanation. And it very much resonates with the ecology of practices, that how you have to look into different dimensions to be able to purify the mind. Manoj, so before we open the floor for questions, Manoj, if you would like to add something to the discussion here.
In our approach, what I have found that works, the foundational layer is the inner contact with the learner, a space of loving connection with the other person. If that is there, when the other person is feeling that I can trust this space, and I can relax and I can be authentic, I can be vulnerable. And that opens up everything, the possibilities. And the rest is a living alchemy of that growing relationship where you're growing together. That's, I would say, the space of love. We are cultivating that love between the learner and the facilitator, and growth unfolds like a flower, a bud blooming. Thank you.
Okay, so we have only 5 minutes, so maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions. Any questions from the floor? You have a question? Okay. All right.
Thank you, everyone, for the presentations and discussions and suggestions, and I found this a very stimulating panel. I work in a university. I teach and hope to inspire students, but the fact is that a third of our students are clinically, moderately, or severely depressed, right? So. And nobody does their best in that state of mind. And it's true across the whole of the UK education sector, and I'm sure it's further as well. How do we get the balance right? How do you know what success looks like in an education environment? The balance between the stuff that we measure and the stuff that's harder to measure. You know, people need to learn the skills that they need to go on and thrive in the real world. And those skills include emotional and spiritual skills as well. How do we measure, how do we know when we've got the balance right between the priorities that we give to those different dimensions of education?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question. So we'll take 1 more question from the floor. Dasho.
Thank you very much, Kerzan Wangdi from Privy Council. Let's say it's been a mind-blowing session. Thank you very much. My questions are for a couple of panelists up here. I see Mr. Manoj, first question to you, and perhaps Lam Nima Tshering. When you say you're training your mind, are you really training your mind, or are you training your consciousness, or are you training your Atma? Especially some spiritual traditions, we have a philosophy of anatman. That's my first question. Second question, I'm squeezing the 1 minute that has been given. That is for Mr. Tim Huang. Brilliant exposition. In schools, how you can train a mind when children have learning disabilities, bordering psychosis, or attention deficiencies, how we can bring that to the fold. And finally, to my class friend here, Dasho Tshewang Tandin, what was your 1, 2 minute or 15 seconds experience from your recent return from your mind training, the session that you went to a neighboring state in Bhutan? Thank you very much.
So we have only 5 minutes. If I request you to answer these questions and also with your closing remarks in a minute. Thank you.
Firstly, on the measurement, that's a very, very tough question. My experience with that is in terms of, in fact, we had an international conference in 2009 and the agenda was educating for GNH. We had passionate educators from all over the world, about 22 countries, and our agenda was how can we have a module to teach GNH in our schools. And we had a week of debate, and then the final outcome, we had locals. I was also part of that. And our finding was that, okay, our parents were quite worried. They thought instead of learning science and maths and physics, they will learn the domains of GNH and indicators and how to do. They were pretty worried. And the good news is that at the end of that, we said GNH is just an approach. The rest, it will enhance the learning of sciences and mathematics because it's about relationship. It's about taking care of the students. In fact, in the class, the teachers will be concerned how the students are. Are they okay? Are their mood okay? Anything wrong? So they will, in fact, take much more care. And if that care is taken, learning will be enhanced. In fact, the performance will be much better. Things like that. So measurement is tough, but my intuition is that doing mindfulness with the youth, it brings results that are desirable than not doing that, because it's about making a new brain, the neuron cycle, habits, positive habits. For example, I was going to throw one invitation, and that is this, creating mental habits. Every morning, I invite this to my colleagues and students. Every morning, you meet somebody. Wish this person. May this person be well. May this person be safe. May this person be free from suffering. May this person be happy from your side. You're not verbalizing, but you're wishing the first person you meet every morning. And you do it on a daily basis. Then you have this new circuit in your brain. Every time you meet somebody, the thought will come very, very automatically, maybe in a month's time. And the good news is it will show in your expression, in your facial expression and attitude and everything. People will notice that happiness in you, and that happiness rubs onto other people. So wishing that for others also is good for you. You also become much happier. So same thing as mindfulness practice, you benefit. You're wishing things for others, you're serving others, but your own happiness increases. And when that happens, your performance in whatever you do also gets better. And your leadership also is much better. So you can have stellar leadership, outstanding leadership, stellar performance, and enhanced well-being if you practice this. And the invitation is practice and find out. So that is the measurement is difficult, but my intuition is if you have 100 students, even if 5 of them picks up and practices, you are making an impact. The 5 of these people will go out into the community that will rub onto that. And today we need to spread that message much more urgent, because the future leaders, I think, should have compassion. They should have the peace in their mind. That so everything. So my experience from Vipassana is this. A lot of this I have already been introduced to many aspects of mindfulness, including observing your own physiology for emotion control. For example, if I practice this, if I'm beginning to get a little angry, I know, because there are certain sensitivity I get in my body muscles, and I know. When I know, I have a choice. What do I do? Should I be more, express little anger for this person, or should I ignore that? So the point here is I have a choice of responding. If I don't practice this, I will just knee-jerk and do something which will be harmful for me as well as for the other person. So here the shift is from compulsion to choice, from reaction to responding through your own wisdom, the equanimity and all this, because you know, okay, this thing happens, but it's not going to last. It will arise and pass. Just being aware is the key, but it will pass. It will not last. So that is the thing. So Vipassana actually, that is a deep, deep practice. I could do 10 days of Vipassana, 10 hours, 10 plus hours of meditation every day. Social media is out and silence is the mode there. So I could really deepen my practices, and I could really get the sensitivities in my body. So it's just be aware of the sensitivity, and you know this will pass, and this is how you get out of those stress and emotions and everything. Thank you. I think I took a little more time.
So I'm mindful of time, so I'll keep this quick, but just on the question of measurement, it's really just, all the research now has shown that, holistic social-emotional learning programs lead to academic achievement. A meta-analysis of studies has shown it does improve quote-unquote success, but I believe it's also, not just measurement. Our children should be treasured and not just measured. How do we really help children remember their own goodness and celebrate that? And that kind of gets me to, Dasho's question, just around children with different abilities. And at ELC, we're an inclusive school, so we don't treat them any differently. They sit in these well-being sessions with other children. We've had children with ADHD, children who are on the spectrum with autism, and we found that actually these kids have so much wisdom and so much to share. And we had a boy who every day he would come in and he'd always say, "I'm angry." For literally half a year, he would say, "I'm feeling angry today." But Mandiki and I and all the teachers, let me ask, how many of you are parents in the room or teachers? So many parents, many teachers, kids will sometimes do what you say, but more often they'll do what you do. And if we are calm and patient and loving and kind, these children feel that. And then they remember their own goodness. And so by the end of this, half year, this boy who kept saying every single day, I'm angry. And he was so frustrated. All of a sudden, he was taking 3 deep breaths, and he was saying, "I'm feeling calm." And so, children are children. We're no different as human beings. And really, the transformation of the human heart, it just requires one thing, love, which is love, the oldest medicine that we know.
Yes, if you have any closing remarks, a quick one, maybe in 30 seconds.
It's very short. I want to answer Mijilumbola. Yes, I am a Buddhist. We always say sim is, in my translation, it is mind. I always training on my own mind. Actually, the sim has like, there are like branches, like we say 52 Simjung. So now we are always, what we are training on is, we are training on always what we can see is same what the situation of the mind. We are always looking on that, whether it is good or bad. So we have to lead into like a same level. So that's why if we keep our mind in what we can say, if we can realize our own minds nature, so then we can get the enlightened. So that is why we are looking on the one's mind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the beautiful, precise question. In my tradition, we don't actually refer to as the mind training. It's more of growth of your being and growth of consciousness, and that finds its expression through the mind, which is one of the instruments that reveals in the form of thought. It can also reveal as emotion, as energy, as sensation, or gross manifest physical form. So the being becomes as thought, emotion, energy, sensation, or material substance. So the essential training is freeing up the being from the entanglement and liberating and growing in that space, and these instruments naturally fall in place. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. Thank you.